it was very counterintuitive to me that when I see something on paper, you talked about the reality world versus the underwriting world. Mm-hmm. It was very counterintuitive to me that on paper, all my properties are cash flowing. How could they not work for me? But actually, when the underwriter looks at it and dives in a little deeper.
On your tax return and how you presented it to the IRS.
Then it's like, well, so this one's a wash and this one's a little yes and this one's a little no. And like, okay. All right.
Hey, Colorado, Chris Lopez here, and in today's podcast, we are going to talk about how to scale your house hacking portfolio. So people love our house hack deal analyses, and one of the common questions we get is, hey, I got my first one, I understand that, but how do I buy my next one? So as a lot of our clients' portfolios have matured and more people becoming advanced real estate investors, we want to do more content around how do you buy your second, third, fourth, and so on. So today's podcast is actually going to be with an interview with a house hacker who's going from her third to her fourth property. So talk about where she came from and how she's making it work from going from 3 to 4. And that house hacker is Katie Heinsohn. Katie.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
So Katie's an agent. She's a house hacker. We'll hear lots more from her. And we got Troy Howell with NOVA Home Loans. Troy, good to have you back in the studio.
Good to be here. Thanks, Chris.
All right. So before we get into details, general disclaimer, we always use these podcasts for educational purposes. So these give you some ideas, give you connections, but we are not your CPA. We're not your direct lender. We're not your agent. We're not your financial planner. So make sure you talk with the appropriate team on here. This is for illustrative purposes. All right. So the reason I wanted Katie and Troy in here is Troy did the loan on here, and he knows how to do some loan hacking. Mm-hmm. And then we have Katie, who is the house hacker and also the agent on the deal.
Yes.
So Katie, rewind us because this is your fourth house hack, but where'd you start? Where'd you come from?
Yeah. I started kind of without knowing that I was even house hacking, right? I luckily had some really good people around me who told me, just get into real estate. We'll help you kind of with the down payment of your first one, but you just need to get your foot in the door. So I bought my first house in 2013 when I was 25, and I moved in with a roommate, much like lots of us do as we are right out of college. And that was my first house hack. I didn't know I was doing that at the time, but that's what I was doing. So she was helping me pay a little over half of my mortgage. Awesome. Fast forward, I got a job at Your Castle Real Estate, learned what house hacking was, and that I needed to be doing more of it. So
do more.
Exactly.
Yes. You get around the right people, right, who just guide you in the right direction. So that was 2016. So 2017, bought my second property, which was strictly investment, rented that out. And then in 2019, I was able to save up to buy an additional house hack. And I took my roommate from the first one and moved to the second house with her and rented out my first property. So I had two rentals and then a house hack.
And then COVID happened, right?
Yeah.
You had so first, what was your plan?
So my plan was so I saved up. I got the ball rolling. Now I'm going to spend a year and a half. She's paying the majority of my mortgage. I'm going to save up all that money to continue every year and a half to do this house hacking. Yep. That was 2019, November. And then 2020, COVID happened. So a lot of things happened. COVID happened. We had to stay in place. The market was crazy. I met my now husband, who actually moved in 2021. And so it was kind of
Did you make him pay rent?
I did. Of course I did.
Good on you. Market rent, or did you get a sweetheart deal?
No,
she gave him $50 off.
Yeah. No, but it was nice sharing a mortgage with 3 people now instead of 2 people. Even. Yeah. So again, allowed me to save even more. And then we got engaged in 2022. My roommate, at this point now, I've lived with that same roommate for almost 10 years. So nice. She moved out, and so that was one less person to share the mortgage with. And since we got engaged, we had a wedding to pay for. Weddings are expensive. So it was a little, well, they don't have to be expensive, but my wedding was expensive.
Right? Yeah.
And yeah, so it had a little less saving into 2023. But
so you had, just life changes.
Life. But once we got married, then we were like, okay, now we want another place. We want to start a life together. We want to start a home together. And so talked about renting out our place, finding a new place for us. My husband's commute was kind of terrible. Weren't sure that we wanted more roommates. We had done the roommate thing for a year. That had some trials and tribulations there.
Right.
So we just wanted to be by ourselves for a bit. So kind of switched our mindset from that house hacking to the nomading more strategy.
And what is nomading?
So nomading is, instead of living with strangers or other people, you kind of live with yourself and your spouse, and then fix it up to be able to have a rental when you move out, or with the intention that when you move out, you'll turn it into a rental, right? So so we were looking for our fourth property. Our goal was so let's see, this is August of 2023. Our goal was to get into a place by the end of the year, by the end of 2023. We were kind of looking at that between that 500, 530 price point. Wanted a single family. I had condos and townhomes on my other three properties, so wanted a single family home and a better commute for my husband. He was,
because you moved up north, right?
For the fourth one.
Yes.
But we were living in Aurora. Sammy was working in Broomfield, so it was over an hour commute every single day.
Ugh. Yeah.
And so that was one of our big goals, is to help with that commute.
Okay.
So that's when we contacted Troy and said, where are we at? What can we do? Please help us. And
Started figuring things out. And
we had a lot of challenges, which I think are very common for most people, actually. Yeah. I think why my case is a little special is because I had all of them, not just one.
Well, you had a few. You didn't have every single one, but you had a few challenges to overcome. But that's what makes it fun.
And before we get into the details, I mean, a very key point on highlight you said is you talked to Troy first before you started going out there and looking at properties and putting offers in. Yeah. Now, you've been around real estate investing for quite a while. You've done it yourself, and you know the rule. Lending first, deal second. Yeah.
So I kind of knew the range that we wanted, and for the house that we wanted, I knew what that was going to be as far as price point. And it was, can we get it there? Yeah. So next step, before I go shopping and have my heart set on a property, let's talk to lending and make sure it's realistic.
Yeah. And then Dylan, of course, now we've got rate challenges too. From when you bought those first three houses, the market was extremely different for the interest rate. So
absolutely
easier, quicker, ratios haven't increased like interest rates have increased, right? Incomes haven't increased like interest rates have increased. So we had to make sure we had things dialed in for the debt to income, credit, and all that.
Yes.
So, all right, you talked with Troy. Well, where'd you start at, and what'd you need to do?
So our first hurdle, I think, was the credit. So I hear this with a lot of my clients. It happened to us. One person has a little bit better credit and one person has a little bit less credit. So you just, and unfortunately, they don't take the best of the two. They take,
and they don't take an average either.
An average of the two. They take the lower of the two, right?
Oh, so if you have someone at, say, 750 and someone at 650, husband, wife, everything, they're 50-50 equal, you take the lower one.
Take the lower one.
You don't care that
Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA, VA, they take the lowest of the group. I mean, if there's 3 borrowers, 4 borrowers, it's always whoever has the lowest of the group.
So whether they're putting in 1% or 100% of the down payment?
Or none of it.
Okay.
Right. And I've had clients over the years where maybe the husband's making good money, the wife has some student loan debt, her credit scores aren't so good. we don't even put her on the deal. Just put her on the title and not on the loan, because then you get better terms, better price.
Okay.
Not to be the case with yours, because we needed his income to go with your income. So we had to address his credit score.
Yes. 1099 versus W-2. We were splitting that for income, right? So that was another hurdle. But yeah, so we needed Sammy on the loan for his W-2. And yeah, but the great thing working with Troy is part of Troy's services, he has this credit department, Mia, who is specifically, who is amazing. And she was able to look at our situation individually, figure out a plan, and tell us step by step what we had to do. I had talked to other lenders who we have used in the past, and pull your credit report, work on it, talk to me in 6 months, see how it goes. No, Mia dialed in, gave us a step-by-step plan, said, go out, get this card, get this limit, charge this amount, and do that for this many times, right?
Wow.
And it was amazing that I had somebody help me.
Advocating for you too.
And just getting, doing that whole hand holding, because credit is there's so many.
It's not intuitive. Yeah, it's not intuitive either.
Yeah. Okay. So so many people are like, well, I must have good credit because I don't have any debt, or I must have good credit because I don't have any credit at all. I've never gotten a credit card.
Or I must have great credit because I pay everything on time.
Right. And
that doesn't mean
not
you have
the game.
No.
Yeah. You actually have to carry a balance, and it's a percentage game, and when you pay it off and how, so just the intricate details of credit, even for somebody who's around it all the time is hard. So it was really, really nice. I'd say that was our biggest win of the whole thing. Through Mia's plan and us holding ourselves accountable, we were able to increase our credit score 55 points in 3 months.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, good job, guys.
And the good part about that too is you could blame it all on Mia when you were talking to your husband, talking to Sammy about it. It wasn't you.
It wasn't me
heckling him and going
Mia
after him. It's like Mia said,
you have to do this.
This is what you've got to do. So it worked out nice.
All right. So you got the credit solved.
Yeah.
And this is something I know that Troy, Nova Homes, you guys specialize in with, I guess, Mia, who sounds like kind of runs your credit department here. I've had lots of great success stories like Katie's talking about. But again, great reminder, credit first or lending first, and then deal second. And I think you ran into something else that so many other house hackers face now, especially in this high interest rate environment. You use a low down payment to buy a property, and then you start running into debt to income ratios.
Yes.
So first off, how do they calculate a debt to income ratio when you're moving out of a property like Katie did and buying a new property? What are you, the lenders, looking at?
So a couple levels. Initially, what we've got to do is we got to break down the income. So we're taking Katie's 1099 income and Sammy's W-2 income to develop a number to hang our hat on. So you want to break it down to a monthly gross income amount, and then we pull our percentages off that. So debt to income is a percentage of the gross monthly income. So first aspect of it was, okay, we've got to look at Katie's tax returns because she's 1099 and analyze that per the underwriting guidelines to make sure we have it calculated correctly to pull that number in. And then Sammy, with his W-2, it wasn't a solid 40 hours a week type W-2. So there's a little fluctuations from paycheck to paycheck, from week to week with the hours. So there were some calculations and some averaging to be done there. So then we combine those two. Then we've got a gross monthly amount. Then we pull percentages off that. So to get to where you were going with it, we've got these 3 properties as well. And we've got to look at the tax return and calculate what those properties are doing. So reality and underwriting guidelines, 2 different things. How it's showing up for you and presenting on the tax returns is one thing, but how we look at it from the lending world is a different analysis. So we analyze each of those properties, and that's where the challenge kind of came in with property number 3, which was your departure residence. How was that going to play in? Was that going to add to the DTI or, subtract from it? Was it going to be an additional expense to be counted against you in your debt to income ratio, which all drives down to how much payment can we do for house number 4, right?
Yeah.
So we had to get that income squared away, analyze each one of the properties. We've got the credit, move in the right direction, and then get that DTI dialed in.
Yeah.
And so we really got that set up to where we can make it work for the particular property that you bought.
Yeah. And I think from our end, and again, probably for a lot of people, it was very counterintuitive to me that when I see something on paper, you talked about the reality versus the reality world versus the underwriting world.
Mm-hmm.
It was very counterintuitive to me that on paper, all my properties are cash flowing. How could they not work for me?
Yeah, because when you do the simple math,
Like
you say, I make this, these properties are knocking down how much a month for me, right?
How can
that
that...
I'm seeing showing up in the bank.
And all we hear is, yeah, I'm able to use 75% of the income that I get from those rentals towards my income, right? Like, great, let's go. But actually, when the underwriter looks at it and dives in a little deeper,
on your tax return and how you presented it to the IRS,
yeah, then it's like, well, yes and no and this and that. So this one's a wash and this one's a little yes and this one's a little no. And like, okay. All right.
Damn it anyhow.
I know. So yeah. So again, just thank you, Troy, for helping us through that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So where that additional nuance came in was for house number 3, calculating that one. So we ended up going towards an FHA loan because of where Sammy's credit score was. Made the best sense. As soon as you start dropping below 720 on a credit score, conventional Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac pricing gets heavy, especially the mortgage insurance, because it's super sensitive to credit scores. So FHA is a one shoot fits all. It didn't matter if you had an 800 credit score or a 600 credit score. The mortgage insurance is the same universally across the board for FHA. FHA also allowed for higher debt to income ratio than conventional financing. So there was a couple facets to it that lent itself to going FHA. But the tripping point with FHA is the departure residence. So house number 3, which was your primary owner occupied property, you're going to turn it into a rental. But FHA says, we won't let you do that unless you're more than 100 miles away. Well, you're well within the metro area that this house number 4 was going to be.
What's 100 miles is Wyoming or
Pueblo.
South of Pueblo. Yeah, I'm not moving
Durango,
that far
maybe.
away.
Yeah.
You
weren't doing that. So,
my goal was to move closer, not further away, right?
Right.
So
all the other loans were conventional then, right?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
so all the existing loans are conventional.
So we could pull the trigger on
so you
an
could do the
FHA.
FHA.
Yep, that was at our disposal, which was hugely helpful, of course. So what we ended up doing was you made a different departure residence. So you actually moved out and put that into a rental mode. You made house number 3 a rental. And we worked pretty hard through that with getting a Section 8, which we've been talking a lot about here lately.
Yep.
Which you can take a somewhat substandard property, not that that property was horrible, but you could get above market rent essentially with that.
Yeah, I was shocked at the numbers.
Section 8.
Yeah, Walker, what were you expecting if you did market rent? And how many, was this 3-bed, 2-bath, this house?
3-bed, 3-bath.
3-bed, 3-bath. So what were you expecting market? Walk us through market and Section 8 rents.
Yeah, so market was between 25, 26, but we were going into winter, right? Like this is now November, December.
That's the worst time.
The worst time. So I was a little nervous about that, and then talked to Jeff White, who house hacking king, right? And does a lot of Section 8. And with Aurora, for all they care about is bedroom count, right? So a 3-bedroom place, whether it's 900 square feet or 3,000 square feet, 3-bedroom was getting $28.74 for rent. So that was just crazy to me. So I went Section 8. It was an easy decision. The other thing that was good about Section 8 is they are desperate for housing, right? Yes. So it was guaranteed rent and guaranteed renter in December. For above market. Yeah. And I didn't realize this, but when a person is given a voucher, they only have 90 days to find a place, which can be very difficult. Otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
they lose that voucher and have to go back on the waiting list.
It can be
Ooh,
years.
really?
Yeah.
Can be years.
Could
for
be
them.
years. So I just got flooded with, you take
Inquiries.
Section 8, you take vouchers, and like, whoa. Like,
Nice.
but it was a nice problem to have, because then things moved relatively quickly.
Yep.
And Section 8 they only pay rent. They don't do security deposit. So, but there are so many organizations that help these people. So they were able to, because my Section 8 didn't actually start until January.
Mm-hmm.
And so a charitable organization was able to help this renter with down payment and December rent.
Really?
Yeah.
Deposit and December rents.
Yes.
A prorated
Thank you.
portion of
I keep
December
saying down
rent.
payment.
Yep.
Yeah, so deposit and prorated December rent. So,
Which we needed for the loan
yeah.
because we needed to show that that property was rented, and then you got above market. So we run our
Mhm.
calculations for your DTI
Yeah.
off that.
And the above
Rent
market
amount.
rent bumps that up a
Mhm.
little bit, right?
Right. That helped us qualify
How
for more.
much do you need to show rentals at a signed lease and a deposit? Like, what
Yes.
do you need as a lender from Katie and other
we
investors?
need an executed lease and then first month's rent plus deposit
Okay,
is the
so
rule.
executed lease, first month, and deposit.
Okay.
Okay.
To legitimize it. Back in the day, you used to just have a lease and it was a lot of fraudulent activity going on. So they've tightened up the guidelines and they want to see.
Never. People were abusing that?
A little bit, hey,
Who would have thought?
here's a lease, from my cousin.
From their friend, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that caused a problem, obviously. So,
Yeah.
but you did great. And so you got not only above market rent, got it quickly, got the Section 8,
Yeah.
which helped us qualify for more, but it happened quickly. It was in December. So there was a lot of great attributes. And Jeff was a huge help,
Yeah.
kind of walking and talking
Guiding
you through
me
So
some of
through
that.
I see a
Section
problem here, though. Where were you living?
Yes.
Ah.
So-
Yes.
This is an important
I
equation
know,
too.
I
While you
know.
guys are getting loans and buying homes,
Yeah.
where are you living?
I am very, very lucky that I have a gracious father. And he let us move in.
And a flexible husband, newly minted husband.
More so that, yes. I begged Sammy. Sammy was like, as long as there's an end date, an end in sight. So yeah, because it's hard to live with your in-laws. I'm
Moving back in after moving out
yeah.
for a
He's
good while.
been on his own
Ugh.
since 18 or whatever,
Yeah.
probably before that. So yeah, so it was fine for me because I love my dad, and Sammy and my dad get along great. So out of all of our options, he was like, yeah, but your dad's
Cool.
the place to go.
And he's
So
local, right?
he's local. He was in Lone Tree. So again, it was hard because you're already an hour commute. Let me push it a little further
Oh, that is-
for
yeah.
Sammy's commute. So just lit a fire under us to move quickly and try and find a place, which is.
But that's what you have to do. I've had a lot of clients over the years where that's what you do. You move in with a family or a
Yep.
friend for 2
Short-term
months.
solution.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like that's
You season it out. And then
yeah.
what helped us on the loan side is now that your dad's address became your departure address.
departure residence.
So then that's how we worked through the 100-mile rule to get you
Because
into
she
the
was
FHA.
departing a rental.
Because she's departing her father's house.
Or yeah, well, the one that she didn't own. Right?
Yeah, and we had this now house number 3 was a rental property. So you had 3 rental properties
Mhm.
living with your dad.
Is there a
rent-free.
seasoning period for that? Like
Couple
hey,
months, Katie pushed me like no tomorrow. It made me super nervous
okay.
because I think we wanted
is there
a
an
little
official
more.
rule? Is it 2 or 3 months, or is that kind of?
It's kind of a gray. It's kind of
Okay.
a gray one. There's not something hard and fast
Okay.
that says here, but we documented.
it was legit.
we
the
talked
post
to-
office. I changed my address.
we talked to
told the
senior
DMV.
underwriting, but we had all this plotted and planned like in
Yeah.
November,
Mhm.
and then it was in January that I think you went under contract for the new house. January-ish, February maybe.
End
Of
of
24?
January. Yep, end of January 2024. Yep.
But we had all the documentation now. Departure residence was lined up, and lease was in place for house number 3. So
Yeah.
we're off to the races for house number 4.
Yep.
Great. So you found house number 4. Tell us about it.
We did, yes. So accomplished most of our goals, cut Sammy's commute in half, which was amazing. Found a technically 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom house that we love. It's in Brighton, which I wasn't sure I was going to love, but I do. I love the quiet and kind of
Yes.
calm outside the city. And the only one, our goal was to hit it by the end of the year. And so we pushed that by, a month and a half, 2 months. But we moved twice. And I had 2 surgeries. I broke my leg and had 2 surgeries as well.
Forgot about throwing that little deal in there too.
Yeah, and the holidays and everything else. So I think we did awesome.
Well, especially when you thought it was going to take 6 months to even get the credit
to get
even
the credit,
lined up, but you were purchased within 6 months.
Exactly.
You were buying something within 6 months.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
So with this rental, you're going to live here for how long do you think?
5-ish years.
5 years.
Is the plan.
Move out, convert to rental, and buy another Nomad or maybe a more permanent primary.
Yeah. Depending on where we're at in life.
You could sell it and use it to buy something else.
Exactly. Yeah. Depending on what the rental doesn't make sense as a rental right now. But we can refinance. Hopefully,
we'll see.
What interest rate did you get?
5.625.
Oh wow,
5.625.
You're in the 5s.
Yeah.
We were in the 5s. We kind of caught it at a good time, and you did a little bit of a light buy down because we had to make the ratios work. Because coming back to the debt to income ratios, we were at the limit on both ratios, the housing ratio and the DTI, at the limit.
Okay.
With those schools, we were just squeezing it in there. So
47 and 57, right?
Yeah, we had to make sure the insurance worked, the homeowners insurance, the P&I portion of the payment. We were probably within $20 of being over the limit.
Wow.
On it. Yeah. But
nailed it.
Limits are limits for a reason. So
we were at like 46.4 for a limit of 47 and 56.
Yeah, if you're 47.1 or 47.01, no to go. And same thing with the DTI. If you're 57.57, you're done. Yeah. But we were at 56.3. So 0.7% on the DTI.
Doesn't matter.
But we're there.
Done.
It's approved.
It's like the pass-fail exams. What'd you get? I passed.
Yeah.
I don't care.
It doesn't,
it doesn't matter.
Who cares what the grade was? You passed.
Well, congratulations, Katie.
Thank you.
And awesome job, Troy, for
she
navigating.
She was a great patient. She followed the prescription like we talked. You did what you were supposed to do.
Seller concessions too, which helped a lot.
Yeah, but that's you on the real estate side. You dialed that into the negotiations.
Yeah. Well, you know the game, and you're a good investor and a good agent.
Yeah.
All right. So as we wrapped us up here, I thought this was an awesome story and hopefully very helpful for those out there to understand how it works, some considerations to think about, and the appropriate timeline to plan for, getting issues resolved and how to get creative, but also stay compliant.
Yeah.
Any kind of parting thoughts or final things that you want to share with people, or Kate, I know you help so many people invest as well. Just any things you want to reinforce with our listeners?
I think, make sure you have a good team around you. I could not have done any of this in the timeline to meet all of my goals without Troy and Troy's team, right?
Yeah.
And for people, I luckily have the knowledge, the real estate knowledge as I'm an agent, but as you said, the negotiations, just people who know what they're doing. So make sure you have a good team around you who help you and support you and check in with you on a weekly, several times a week. And then also, thank you to Sammy, my partner, who allowed me to push him.
He got a win out of it though too. But he definitely was
he has said several times,
I'm
zone. So glad you pushed me so hard. It was hard, but he loves our house and says every week how much he loves being there. So
that's great. And plus you guys are, you got another piece of Monopoly board. You're winning. That's just,
you're 4 houses.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people have 4 owned properties.
You got to get the Red Hotel next.
I
right?
know.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So you'll move into a 4-plex?
Maybe. Will Sammy let me move to a 4-plex?
I'm even surprised you entertained that. Troy, any final tips, parting thoughts for people
I think the biggest thing, and especially with your story, is getting started early, setting up a game plan and a strategy, finding out where things need to be worked on, and then following the prescription. So setting up that strategy, because to me, my philosophy has always been it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, and then it's just a matter of how much. So, and you can analyze that. And I don't care. We were talking about maybe a possible friend of yours the other day, and she may not be for a year or so, but let's get started now.
Yeah.
If it's the fall or spring of next year, there's no reason not to talk now. Let's get a lay of the land, and then you have something to work towards.
Oh, I agree. The sooner you start, the better. Talk to lending, whether it's Troy or your lender, whoever it is, but like I say it's a nice way, but it gives you a reality check. It lets you know where you are, and you might be where you're at. You're like, ooh, I want to go there. And then Troy and Mia will help you say, cool, here's a plan to get from here to there.
Right.
And
sometimes it's like going to the doctor for your annual physical. It's like, I thought everything was fine, and everything is fine. So it's reaffirming.
Oh, yeah.
As well, just to reaffirm where you're at.
Cool. Awesome. Well, Katie, thank you. Troy, thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Viewers, listeners, you guys have any questions, let us know. If you need help with lending or want to talk to a great lender, reach out to Troy. If you want to talk to Katie about her scaling her house hack portfolio or need an agent, talk to Katie as well. But let us know you like the show, because I think doing these are more advanced topics. I think they're more fun to talk about. And also we have a lot more people who are scaling up, and that's what we got to do.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Everyone, we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Good.